Welcome back to ICE 365 Live. Time now for CEO Question Time. I am joined by two special guests in the studio. I have Renatus Zilles from DVTM and Jörg Ukrow from LMS Saarland. Hello both. Welcome to the studio.
Hello. Hello.
So, Renatus, I'm going to ask you the first three questions. Do you feel the new regulatory authority has engaged with the industry since it was established?
Yes, GGL is doing a good job for overall. After our BTC panel, it was at the R8 of March with 6 high-level persons. Cooperation will be intensivist. Also the request of the GGL, especially at the association operator level. At this session of DVTM, there will be a roundtable and task forces in the near future, and the GGL says we worked very well with the lawyers, but we preferred that in the future we have the discussion directly with the operator and the other people around this new market.
And are you confident that it will be in a position to start overseeing enforcement action, such as IP blocking of under-licensed sites by the 1st of July?
Yes, in our view, we believe that the GGL is on schedule. We have long been in favor of IP blocking and financial blocking as the last resort or the last tool against the black sheep, but not as a competitive tool. That is very important. These tools should only be used when the market is fully regulated and liberalized, like in UK is a good example that the market is regulated and liberalized. This tool is very well that you go against this black sheep, the really black sheep, not the black sheep in this moment, because nobody has in this moment a license.
And does that create a degree of a level of certainty in a regulated market?
Sorry?
Does it create a degree of certainty in a regulated market?
I think the pain points of this primarily in this moment the bet €1 and the 5-second spin at first, and this Lugas is a technical part because some of our clients forced against this Lugas because they think that is for data protection reasons. And additional, I think, is especially the new taxation. And we are currently a new pilot was thought on the part of the DVTM. It was the first association go against this tax regulation, and also the association of our members under the leading of the DVTM has a tax model procedure with its members. Also, we are say the new tax regulation is against the regulation against liberalization, because if you pay more tax than is normal, then it is a good reason for the black sheep market. Therefore, we say that is not the way, and we hope that we get in the next 3 to 6 months a signal from the EU, and then we get also signals from the part of the Germany.
Brilliant. Thank you, Renatus. And over to you, Jörg. Welcome to London. It's your first time in London, and also, obviously, therefore, ICE London. How are you finding it so far?
It was great.
Good. So, speaking of progress, how will advertising be controlled? Will there be an internal regulation on the subject of advertising regulation in Germany?
Yes, there will be such an administrative regulation. A recording of the broadcast radio and internet advertising programs shall be kept for the term of the license and submitted to the supervisory authority upon request. The obligation to record, store, document and submit data is a measure within the scope of the duties of the gambling supervisory authority in its function as licensing authority, and is necessary for the comprehensive fulfillment of the supervisory duties. Advertising on third-party sites, affiliates, and social networks is also covered. Third-party sites in this context means internet sites of providers which are not assigned to the licensee. With regard to television advertising, the broadcasting times and places, and with regard to advertising on the internet, the third-party sites, affiliates, and social networks on which advertising is carried out, the advertising partners, the dispatch of newsletters, and the respective advertising times shall be continuously documented in an electronic table and kept for the duration of the license. Upon request of the supervisory authorities, the tables shall be provided to the supervisory authority. With respect to the control of advertising, the obligation for the gaming regulatory authority and the audiovisual media regulatory authorities in Germany to cooperate and to support each other will be specifically important.
Brilliant, thank you, Jörg. And what safeguards will be taken to ensure advertising is responsible and permitted? Is there any sort of approval process in place?
No, there is no more an approval process in this field. Content-related and ancillary provisions regarding the design of advertising for public gaming, in particular on television and on the internet, as well as mandatory information, will be laid down in the permit for the public game. However, organizers and brokers of public games are obliged to ensure the protection of minors and of players, to encourage players to engage in responsible gaming and to prevent gaming addiction. For these purposes, the organizers and brokers of public gaming must develop and implement social concepts. The social concepts shall set forth the measures that will be taken to prevent and remedy the socially harmful effects of gaming. The social concepts must contain inter alia considerations with regard to the protection of minors and players in the field of advertising and sponsorship. Significant changes or additions to the advertising concept and significant deviations from the advertising concept shall be notified to the licensing authority without delay. A corresponding update of the advertising concept shall be submitted to the licensing authority every 2 years from the granting of the license.
And another question for you, Jörg. What rules apply to advertising and sponsorship with athletes, clubs, and testimonials currently, and plans for these regulations moving forward into the future?
Advertising for sports betting with active athletes and officials is not permitted. This means that sponsorship for sports betting with these persons is permitted. However, advertising is also deemed to exist if sponsoring references simultaneously contain advertising or advertising elements that directly or indirectly encourage or incite participation in gambling. This is particularly the case if the reference is made in a moving image or not only in a reasonable brevity. The advertising with athletes, clubs, and testimonials, as any other advertising, must be moderate and limited to what is necessary to achieve the objective of advertising, that means the objective of canalization.
Brilliant, thank you, Jörg. And Renatus, back to you. What action do you think is needed to improve German regulations?
I think the important things are, for example, the betting money from €1 more higher, and the spin from 5 seconds. It is one of the first priorities. The second is the Lugas technical part, that we find a solution, because somebody says, okay, this is not data conform. Other people says, okay, it's data conform, and you don't say it is data conform. You have not a chance to get a license. It is not okay. The second one is certainly the position of the tax regulation, because in this moment the tax regulation is too high. It is not interesting to spend money at the market, because you lose money, and therefore this is the best way that the black sheeps make a good market, because they say, okay, we have a better spending and so on, and therefore this is not for a fair market. And at least I think that in the future it is very important that is a common understanding of this market, and common understanding to go side by side, the regulation part and the operators and the other parts of this value chain. And therefore we have make the proposal that we get a round table and task forces, also table with task forces, that we got in a very short time solutions, practical solutions. And the GGL, as the chairman of GGL, Mr. Schwanker and Mr. Bender, say, okay, this is a wonderful idea. We would like to make more and more, so that we have solutions in a very short time, and common solutions, and that we gave a liberated and regulated market, like UK, for example, and other. And therefore the pain points, I think we need around about 9 months. Then we find solution for the pain points, and the DVTM is this part in Germany of associations that make every time proposals that we have make this discussions at the 8th of March. It was the first time that 8 regulators with the part of also with the members of our association had this discussion around about 3 hours, and every part say it was a very good idea, and it was the first step to come together and to work together for the future, and therefore I think this is the right way.
Thank you, Renatus. And Jörg, what's next for LMS Saarland? Are you working with the Gambling Authority to coordinate?
Yes, we will. We will support the new regulatory authority in all fields of its regulatory portfolio. We will strengthen the cooperation between the gambling authorities and the media regulatory authorities to prevent the occurrence of gaming and betting addiction, to create the preconditions for an effective addiction control, to counteract the development and spreading of prohibited games on the black markets, and to ensure the protection of minors and of players. From our point of view, it is necessary to learn from each other more than in the past. For example, the KJM, as the German Commission for Youth Protection in the Media, successfully conducted proceedings against a foreign pornography portal, at the end of which a blocking order was issued against several German access providers. This procedure can also provide important impulses for the IP blocking by the Gambling Authority. And we will foster a discussion on 2 regulatory items in the process of evaluation of the new state treaty. First of all, it could make sense to integrate co-regulatory and self-regulatory instruments in the gaming regulations. In the German as well as the EU rules on youth protection, such an approach has been successfully integrated in the regulation system. And secondly, it could make sense to follow the regulation of audiovisual media services also in another respect. On the field of gambling law, too, a minimum harmonization of the EU or the Council of Europe, respectively, might help to achieve the goals of a better protection of minors and of players, as well as the goal to strengthen market forces which are aware of their social responsibility.
And with the transition period underway, how is advertising being controlled? Will it be tolerated during the transition period for licensing?
The German authorities don't tolerate illegal behavior in the field of gambling, but regulators are willing and able to differentiate between serious and less serious violations in their supervision, and they are willing and able to differentiate according to whether a gaming operator is making an effort to establish its own legal behavior, or not. The establishment of a legal status which is in full accordance with the new German gambling law takes time. Time on the part of the gambling authorities as well as time on the side of the gambling operators. But this time cannot, need not, and will not be endless.
Brilliant, thank you. And Renatus, do you think this will help or hinder operators applying for a license and already taking bets in the market?
Sorry.
Do you think that there's a lack of toleration for the transition of period in licensing after Jörg's answer? Will that help or hinder operators applying for licenses?
Yes, we have made a proposal, it was in December 2021, that we have a transparent period by, for example, by advertising and other things. And some of the people like Mr. Ukrow or Mrs. Kremer, the CEO of this Glücksspielkollegium in Germany, say, okay, it's a good idea because we need time. And in this time, the black sheeps have dominated this market. And if we make this transition time, we had a better market, and after this transition time, we have this license. But the political parties don't understand our proposals. They say only we have made the decision before 2 years ago that we make no transition period and so on. They are not thinking in a real time. They was thinking in the past time, not in the future. That was a problem. And therefore, perhaps it is a negative part of this regulation that we are not able to make things in the real time, and that we are flexible to say, okay, we have not the time we have planned, for example, that these advertising regulatory things are ready at the end of the 2021. And it's not the part of Mr. Ukrow, for example. It was other things that is make it contrary. And therefore, I think the greatest problem in Germany is that we have made this entertainment contract in 2020. It was finished in 2021 in July, and the political parties don't have the view in which time or in which structure we will finalizing this. And therefore, this is a problem. It's a challenge for all the parties in this moment. For the 58 operators who would like to have a license, and also for the regulatory parts and the black sheep market, say every time, every day, it's a wonderful day because we have 1 day more to make not regulatory things, and say we earn money, and that is not fine.
Thank you, Jörg. Thank you, Jörg, and thank you, Renatus, for joining us in the ICE 365 live studio.